So apparently, Daredevil is going to become a massive success and is actually very good. So I am very eager to watch the episodes. Big fan of the Daredevil, big fan of the Daredevil. But unlike Zero Dark Nora, and we're only going to be making fun of Nora a little bit in this video. I want to concentrate on John Campea. And I'm going to be fair to both of them. So John Campea, for those who don't know, is a pretty famous movie YouTuber. But he's out there. He's gotten a lot of things wrong. Probably the most biggest mistake was the Snyder Cut. And he's very bitter about that because the Snyder fandom has really been making fun of him and pounding him for a long time, especially Film Gob, who's really hilarious. And unfortunately, he had to take down some videos, I think, because Campea and others were really attacking him. But he's a really funny guy. I don't agree with Film Gob on everything, but he's a very severe guy. But I like him a lot. But let's get to Zero Dark Nora a little bit, and we'll circle back to John Campea. So, in one of her latest videos, once again, Nora is alerting us to the evil of the corporations and the sexism of the men's and the matrix of it all, and how she will help liberate us for the low cost of channel memberships and all that. And again, I'm technically offering the same thing. You might say, well, you're calling her a grifter. What about yous? What about yous? Well, I have to say, it was pretty amusing her discoursing on the evil of the capitalism and the goodness of the feminist and her being gay while drinking soda. Yeah, she's like, guys, the corporations, they got you brainwashed. And she's like, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, and then you noted the contradiction saying, yes, guys, here, I have water too, though. Right. Now let me get to Campea. And again, I'm going to track down this video because it was hilarious. Because Campea used to work with Collider, which is a very corporate kind of a machine. And I have issues with Collider. They have some good stuff, but also some very bad stuff. But I do like a lot of people who worked with Collider. But anyway, he was on Collider a long time. But then he went solo with his own channel. And he's gotten a lot of success. But he had this whole video where, announcing his Independence Day, he was like, guys, I have liberated myself from the corporations. I will no longer be held back. And now you watch his channel, all he does is corporate sponsorship. Good on him. He makes tons of money. He makes so much money, he can afford at least 3 employees and his own studio. Right? In fact, it's really weird. He has Rob, who I'm very mixed on because, he works with neo-Nazis. And no, I'm not exaggerating. He's Jewish. But, you got to make money in the internets, I don't really judge him, but he sold out. Anyway, so apparently Rob is back in the studio. For a long time, he had to leave because Campea couldn't afford him. So I get, hey, good on him. Campea is making a lot of money. It's the way he makes money or distorting things I have a problem with. So I will do a video praising him for Daredevil. I think, unlike a lot of people who have done all these hate MCU videos, and that's fine, except they usually are hypocrites and idiots and liars and don't get the basics right. So, okay. But he has held faith with the MCU. He's been very critical of the latest Captain America, which I agree it was not that impressive, although it had some good stuff. And he was critical of the phases and Star Wars and things like that. The problem is he often just bandwagons. He just repeats what other people say. He doesn't have to do any real independent thinking. But hey, consistently he was like, Daredevil's going to be really good. And it turns out Daredevil will be really good. So now let's get to Doomsday and where the MCU may end up. And he's having doubts again. But he's having Campea doubts. I don't know, guys. Maybe they're going to do it, but I don't know. I have my doubts about the MCU now. But Mr. Kevin Feige and Daddy Iger are back, so I have the confidence. Even though Iger was responsible for most of these decisions. Like, he acts like Paycheck, or Shapek, as he's lovingly called, was independent. Like, no. A lot of what Shapek was doing was what Iger ordered. Now, granted, Shapek may have misunderstood the orders and gotten it wrong, and there we are. But, yeah, a lot of Shapek was just following the Iger, but, Iger's going to save us again, I guess. But you have to be correct that some of the better things coming, the Skeleton Crew, Andor Season 2, and now Daredevil, is technically under Iger, so, yeah, they must be doing something right. But that's not enough for Campea. He has to go the extra mile, as does Rob, saying, guys, there are some doubts. But now we have the Russo brothers, the brothers of the Russo. These are not the Scoville brothers, guys. They're not thieves, they're not con artists, they're not grifters. I agree, these are some gifted directors, and I would also agree that their Captain America, the chapter they did for Captain America, right, was actually pretty strong. That said, these are not super auteurs either. They're not the Coen brothers. They're not Zack Snyder. There's not Stanley Kubrick 1 and Stanley Kubrick number 2. The Russos actually are coming from one of my favorite shows, Community, which was produced with Ron Howard. So they have a good pedigree, but really that's their background. They're television directors. That doesn't make them, monsters, but really, and again, I'm kind of going to lose one or two people because for whatever reason, this is one of the dogmatisms of modern life that everyone and their mother thinks Infinity War and Endgame are the greatest things in the universe. And Campea reiterates the consensus. He just shovels back the propaganda saying, Infinity War and Endgame were the greatest, most beautiful things of all time. Some of the best superhero films. It was amazing. My brutal opinion is, and again, I've upped the score a little bit because the MCU keeps changing, so you can change the score. But my usual scores are, I give Infinity War like 3.75, and I give Endgame nonsense 4.0. As you can tell, I don't really take either one of them seriously. Like, I've read Thanos. I know the real Thanos. That is not Thanos. That is a very weird, dumb purple raisin that keeps trotting out whatever for money. And no disrespect to Josh Brolin, but that, like, purple raisin man just was like, what the hell is he up to? I don't know. Anyway, they're both really just glorified, pieces of garbage, frankly. That said, both do contain really great scenes. There are very, very powerful moments in both Infinity War and Endgame. I would not deny that, but it just stuns me that even when Campea is right, he's wrong. So apparently Doomsday will basically follow the same formula. So Doomsday Part 1 will be 2.5 hours, and then Doomsday Part 2 will be 3 hours, which is the formula for Infinity War and Endgame. Infinity War is pretty long, but it's not 3 hours long. And Endgame was over 3 hours. Right. And they both made tons of money. So they're just going to do the same trick all over again. And the Russos directed Infinity War and Endgame. And they're going to direct these two films. And Robert Downey Jr. is going to be very prominent again. And he was prominent in Infinity War and Endgame. So basically, they're just repeating themselves. But Campea is making it seem like, guys, this could work. This could work. And these are estimates. We don't know for sure. But I have faith in my Russos. I have faith in my Feige. I have faith in my Iger. But Feige was co-signing some of the worst stupidities. Now, he did a lot of good things. And again, going through all of the MCU, I can't do here. But some of the recent highlights, which I defend on, right? Which a lot of people do not. I defend Eternals. A lot of people hate Eternals. I don't know why. A lot of people hate Multiverse of Madness. I don't know why. All of these have flaws. All of these have problems. But yeah, there have been some pretty good highlights, like Werewolf by Night, Moon Knight, and now Daredevil. So they do get a lot right, but then they sign off on these really questionable projects like The Marvels or She-Hulk. And She-Hulk has got to be one of the worst things I've ever seen. Just at the visual level, the CGI was horrible. The jokes were terrible. The stories were just stupid. No disrespect to the cast. I do think they tried, but the material was just bottom basement stupidity. And I get it. It's like, this is a feminist, queer perspective, and you don't get it. Because, oh my God, you just hate everything. Oh my God, you just hate women and you hate the gay. It's like, no, I can praise female films, feminist films, or gay films when they're done well. Like Ong Lee with Brokeback Mountain. It's one of the best films of all time. When it's done well, yes, even Ong Lee's Hulk, which gets a lot of criticism, I'm a big fan of. Although I think, as a comic book reader, it's a little dicey. So I'm willing to praise the stuff when it's good. But Endgame and Infinity War? They just are what they are. They're just clunky, really badly made action films. And boy, they make no sense. If you think through even the basics, it's all over the place. But it has some good stuff, some good jokes, some great scenes. But at the deeper level, you're like, yeah, the thing just collapses. You're like, this is just ridiculous. And even the thing they were complaining about, saying, they're going to have to do a lot because then Doomsday will have to establish Doom. Yeah, that's what they did with Infinity War. We barely got any Thanos at all. He was just there for cameos for 3 seconds, and he said, ominous, I just want my stones. I want my stones. I want my gauntlets. Right. And that was it. And then Infinity War, to most people, like, they did a brilliant job of giving us the Thanos. So spaketh Mauler. oh, it's the greatest film of all times. It's amazing. And you're like, okay, really? Purple Raisin was just like, I need everything to be half. Well, why? I just do. Okay. So anyway, but I agree. Listen, it could happen. These could be two really good films, but I think following history, they will be barely below average. But a lot of the fandom will love it, and a lot of the so-called deep critics will also. I have lost faith in a lot of the MCU, but Infinity War and Endgame still remain some of the best things of all times. Okay, but therefore, we all have to agree. But, some people are waking up. There's actually some really great now videos critical of Endgame as well as Infinity War. For whatever, Infinity War is still like this sacred cow. They're like, Endgame spelled the beginning of the end of the MCU, but Infinity War remains the greatest thing of all time. No, there are way better films than Infinity War or Endgame. Just calm down. But hey, if they get back to that, I guess it's a sign of recovery. I guess. Maybe. Anyway, fingers crossed. We're going with the MCU. But I think it'll be continuing a very weird Nora, John Campea, chaotic quality they're putting out, in my humble opinion.